Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank the media for showing up and being here. This is a very important day, and we are definitely going to move right along. I am Sharon Rooks with Power Media Solutions, and the first voice you will hear will be Antoine Maxwell, and he will recap the allegations and why we are here this morning. Antonio? Antoine, I'm sorry.
Good morning, citizens of Memphis and uh, the surrounding area. My name is Antoine Maxwell. I am the CEO and Executive Director of True Alternatives Community Development Corporation. Today, we want to recognize and start with this. Today, we stand to amplify the voices muted by fear, protect those that are paralyzed by retaliation, and honor the trust of the silence, and sincerely advocate for those who are wishing to thrive. Uh, we have been considering different ways to rally and support the community in getting our voices heard. And this press conference today is looking at how can we invite the citizens of Memphis, one, into a conversation around showing up and standing up and being brave enough to share their stories and their experiences. And those experiences can include working and serving our city. Over the last 6 months, we've had allegations that have been proposed to us that present really. Sorry, my screen froze. um, while our complaint was filed because of allegations of behavior of retaliation and intimidation that were performed by Gina Sweat. She initiated Facebook conversations to intentionally intimidate, it seems. Made Facebook posts that many have reported felt offended by or concerned about the intention for why she would say a thing like that. We have been positioning and praying for the best avenues to support the citizens of Memphis. We know this is new. We know this is different. But we know that Memphis is a city that the life of Martin Luther King and the sacrifice of his life was always for us. That his life and his death was for us. That he was here for civil service people, people who pick up our garbage. And we're here today for people who fight our fires. And so I want to present to you all a couple of gentlemen who have lived experiences, have uh, moments in their life that even today are difficult to talk about. This is new for us, but they're brave enough to come forward, and I want you to help us to celebrate them. And the first voice I'm going to bring to you is Mr. Reggie Davis, uh, Reginald Davis, and the second voice you'll hear will be Mr. Ken Harding.
Good morning, and thank you guys for coming. My name is Reggie Davis. I was a lieutenant with the Memphis Fire Department. I was employed in 1989. I was subsequently terminated in 2011 for the alleged violation of the media policy. The same policy that Gina Sweat violated herself, as Mr. Maxwell said, with the Facebook's post. I personally felt like that post was directed at me because I had filed a complaint against her as I was seeking reinstatement with the Memphis Fire Department and the city of Memphis. However, she still sits. My life was torn apart. For 13 years, I had to wait to be retired after that incident. To add insult to injury and to show just how malice and how evil intended Gina Sweat is, when you retire, which I was subsequently had to sign an agreement that allowed me to retire, I was tired of fighting that fight. I agreed to this agreement. I went to go pick up my retirement badge and my retirement letter. I went into this building professionally. I was treated professionally from the people at the front desk. And I went to the office of a now deceased employee. Very pleasant conversation. In the middle of that conversation, I had 3 employees, 2 females and 1 male, come into this person's office, and they told me that I had to leave the building. And my question was, why? What did I do? Why do I have to leave? And their answer was one that shocked me, but not really shocked me. Gina Sweat told them to escort me out of the building, that I'm not wanted in that building. Ladies and gentlemen, I was treated like a criminal. I have multiple life-saving awards with the Memphis Fire Department. I have done a lot of civic things within the city of Memphis. I gave this city everything I had. I put my life on the line, and to be treated like a criminal for somebody who absolutely does not respect me as a firefighter, as those that are going through this same ordeal, I vacated there with my heart broken. And as of today, I still don't have my retirement badge. Now, she sent word to them, told them to tell me to go down to the city attorney's office to retrieve it. City attorney's office had no idea what they were speaking of. And additionally, I've witnessed, people who have resigned, Caucasians, specifically, that resigned from this job for a number of years, and they were allowed to return. Now, when I was terminated, and I did, finally, reconcile that situation, in that agreement, if I wanted to seek a reinstatement, it had to be with the permission and the discretion of that fire chief. My attorney and I sent letters to her in HR. It was never responded, but it was responded through, like an EOC complaint. And it is her discretion. However, that discretion cannot and should not be discriminatory. For there are over 31 Caucasians that have resigned and were allowed to come back. But as with the only African American that has sought reinstatement, I was denied. Now, for the policies of the media policy that was broken, we have a couple of guys, that's also in our ethics complaint. They violated the policy. Their lives were turned upside down. They were going for a number of years, 6 years to be exact. And they just got it overturned. Now, all this happened under her watch, but you yourself have violated policies that you hold your employees to, but you still sit in that seat. We're here to speak on behalf of those who cannot speak. And when I say cannot, I mean absolutely cannot. When your livelihood is threatened and you don't have the means to survive, when you have obligations that you have to meet, you take this abuse, but you take the spirit of the fire department and their employees away. So they're doing this job not as a career, but as an obligation. We're going to speak more about that when you guys, have questions for us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Reggie. I'd like to thank the news media for being out here today. My name is Kenyatta Harden. I worked as a mechanic at fire apparatus from 2005 to 2017. In 2017, I recall an incident where a Caucasian male, whom I will refer to as JC, made a racist remark toward a group of African-American mechanics. While they were working on a job, he stated that they would need a third end to loosen up a boat. A formal complaint was submitted regarding this incident, yet no discipline action was ever taken. Additionally, every time I took sick leave, Memphis Fire Department supervisors, one in particular, would come to my house and sit outside for hours, appearing to conduct selective welfare checks. Another hostile encounter occurred when I used departmental approved M5 system, which is a maintenance-based software to track repairs and maintenance. Despite following proper procedures, I was disciplined for using the system. However, when Caucasian mechanics use the same system, no disciplinary action was ever taken against them. Leadership and administration never took any steps toward addressing these ongoing issues. which is why we're here today. Like I said, it's the same thing as Reggie said. We fight for the future employees for the Memphis Fire Department and also city employees, period. Now's the time to come forward and file your grievances. Get familiar with the process. Let's end this. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to take questions from the media. And again, I want to thank you for being here. This is a very important issue, and you've heard some of the allegations from the complainants, and these are serious. This is very serious. And so at this time, do we have any questions from the media?
Yes, sir. Can you talk a little more about the violation of the social media policy?
Yes. So in conjunction with me filing my complaint of reinstatement, there was also a group of 8 African American candidates who filed a complaint against her concerning the promotional process. She fired off a very threatening, Facebook post, something to the effect that, don't ever need me again, to that point. But it was a picture of a burning bridge. After you've done me wrong, don't expect me to ever help you again. So we take it as a threat. The second part of that is that she, after posting that, that's a very public, post, correct? Everybody can agree with that, social media. So whatever you post, somebody can screenshot it, share it, and all that. When allegations were starting to float around the city concerning Gina Sweat, she started reaching out to people that she knew screenshotted this picture. How she knows that, I don't know. Where maybe it's somebody within the technical team searched out these people, and one specific person who was a retiree. In that exchange, which we have copies of, and it's, it is part of the ethics complaint, you bullied this woman. You asked her, why did you take a screenshot of my post and then float it around the city? I want to know who you gave this to. That person was in fear, harassed, she was intimidated, and she does not work for the Memphis Fire Department or the city of Memphis. She was retired. So a complaint was filed, but nothing was done. But for the policies that we were fired for, social media, she still sits today. She should have been removed, if not for anything else, that particular situation.
So did you post something on social media?
I'm not on the social media at all. She did. She posted. Again,
So,
it says here, in her post, and she was made known, she was made aware of the complaints that were filed against her. And 2 hours later, she posted, "Before you do me wrong, make sure you never need me again, ever." And it's a picture of a burning bridge. If you guys don't have copy of this, we have them, when you get a copy of the complaint, everything that we're saying, it's not slanderous, it's from the complaint itself.
what is it that you want the city to do? Do you want Chief Sweat removed? Do you want
Absolutely.
you want your job back? What is
No, at this point, my life has been fine. We here, and then let me say this, guys. Everybody here knows at least one firefighter. You all know. They've said to you guys off the record certain things that they can't say because they don't want it to be revealed that they said it. That's the fear that they have. Otherwise, they would be here. If they could move with immunity and impunity, they would say exactly what we're saying. So we liken ourselves to the Dr. Martin Luther Kings and the ACLU that came here. They weren't from Memphis. We talking about the freedom fighters. They weren't from those cities, but yet and still they saw the need to go and help an oppressed people. They came in, and that's what we liken ourselves to. Somebody has to say something. I'm retired. I don't fear nobody. I don't fear anything. It's the right thing to do. There's no greater conflict within us as a group. And what you see here is a small number. We are very much larger than this. I worked for the fire department from 1989. I was terminated in 2011, and I was reinstated to retire in 2022. I was terminated because of the, with the media policy, the alleged media policy. I appeared on camera, didn't say a word, but I was terminated. And it took 13 years for me to find resolution with my situation. However, there are others who have been terminated, African Americans that have been terminated, and it's taken an average of 7 years. So we look at African Americans. Let's bring up this one person who was a division chief, who was a division chief of training. Very public termination. Channel 3, you guys carried the story. He was terminated in December of 2022. This man ended up retiring. So in essence, he was allowed to bypass the civil service process that all of us have gone through just to get our jobs back. So it had to come from the leadership that allowed that to happen. You can't just simply bypass the civil service process and retire after you've been publicly terminated. Now, we need to make this clear, guys. This is not a black and white issue. Not at all. There are every race that's affected by this. They'll tell you the same story we're told. That we're currently telling you guys. It just so happened that the disproportionate amount of discipline. Look at the candidates who just filed their complaint. We're talking about a city that's over 65% African American, but yet the numbers don't reflect the leadership within that job. So you have to ask yourself this: why? That's leadership. That's mismanagement. When you promote 60 battalion chiefs in an 8-year span, and out of the 60, only 15 of them are only African Americans, that's only 25%. That number should be closer to 42.5, 43.75. It's not. That's called adverse impact. That's called adverse disparity. But it should never have gotten to that point, which tells us fire chief wasn't concerned about that. Not at all. HR wasn't concerned about that. Not at all. And some other entities that should have caught this. This is federal. This is not here locally. It's not because white guys are getting promoted over black guys, and you talking about experience. When you got 25 and 30-year-old lieutenants who have been in the trenches, that knows how to fight these fires correctly, you mean to tell me a newer person who's taking the test for the very first time can outperform that person? They may have outperformed in the test, but where it matters is your experience. That's not included, in the testing process. That's another fight that, that's going to be fought.
Would you say that this is the culture of the fire department?
Absolutely, absolutely. We don't stand here as her attorneys assess that we were trying to slander her and trying to belittle her or hurt her in any way. Absolutely not. Not concerned so much as about her pain. I'm concerned about the boys and the girls that respond to your families, that respond to your friends. If their mindset isn't where it needs to be, mistakes can and will be made. It's not fun anymore, guys. It's not fun anymore for these people.
Can you react to the complaint being dismissed and what you're going to do now?
Yeah, I'll say this. Okay.
Let me get her question and then, okay. You had another question about the complaint being dismissed? Was that your question as well? Okay.
Hey guys, what's up? Okay, gotcha.
We are dedicated to follow this through till we see change. So whatever process, whatever avenue we need to take, that we have been informed by the Ethics Committee of the City of Memphis that other entities have become aware of this complaint and have received it and are investigating. We were not told, even when asked, what those entities called. But if you do just a quick Google, and you always find out not just where the money goes and follow a money trail, but also follow accountability, follow who other people report to, and the CIA and the EEOC and what Mr. Davis spoke about is a unique position because of another violation called USERRA violations. USERRA violations we are seeing are systemic throughout the fire department. And USERRA are the unique HR policies that are in place for veterans. So this is a veteran. his process was supposed to be accelerated legally to like 21 days, 60 days. They have days you have to resolve them, not years. The city has figured out ways to disempower that for people. Is that answer your question? We are meeting and advocating. We're listening. We're doing a lot of listening, and that listening has yielded more and more information, more and more sources.
Yeah.
We are pulling together the picture of anybody in Memphis it works for the city of Memphis Fire and has a complaint over the last 30 to 60 days. The reason why it was dismissed was because a bureaucratic red tape where there is, it took me 30 days to pull the stories together. And we want to recognize that this situation is hard. Talking about people's pain, helping people put pain to paper is a complicated thing. That's another thing we want to make sure that the citizens of Memphis can use us for. We want to be able to share what we've learned about this process. Go ahead.
I guess the biggest question is why now? Why not earlier or years before? Was it a process? Was it something that triggered this? Like, why now?
So why now is because one, she recently began interrogating people. The interrogation was over a fact sheet that was just a report that came from this. So the now was driven by her current accessing of retired people. You had very inappropriate conversation with a retired chief that has that's in the complaint. This retired chief said that Chief Sweat cursed his mother out, and he was one of the men who put her in the position. So these complaints are coming from her former allies that she has turned on, that no longer feel like that she is the person that they wanted to see for the fire department. So that email we have a copy of, as well as just a request. We want to also pull up something that happened when Mayor Strickland was in office in 2017. There was a study that he paid for. That study was called the G38 study. That study was a citywide data-driven analysis of all of our services and all of our work, but also all the reports of ethics violations or discrimination and complaints that were against any of the city entities. That G38 study showcases a lot of interesting things that we want the media to do the work of following the money, asking more questions, because we're seeing for Exhibit A would be a $14 million 20-inch fan. We see things on invoices that are $1.1 billion worth of equipment, and when we ask firefighters and people on the ground, that inventory is not there. We had 9 fire trucks that were supposed to be delivered by 2020. The total of it is actually 12. It was with 5 aerial trucks as well. We have questions. And those questions, honestly, the reason why I'm going to go back to your ex about now is the G38 study was a preventative migration plan for the city. That we knew we were doing something not right, but we needed to do something better. So they hired a consulting company. Their recommendations, the city hasn't done fully. So if you don't fully follow the plan, we have a fidelity issue. And so we're seeing that the same things we're talking about with harassment and discrimination and inventory were in the misappropriation funds, were in the G38 study. The auditor we have the handwritten notes of the auditor of her being told that the N-word is okay to say, commonly heard in the fire department, that even after they did a diversity and equity training, that people were still reporting that fire people were making jokes about watermelon towards black people. So we know now, a very common Southern colloquialism is, if it doesn't come out in the wash, it'll come out in the rinse. We see us in the rents of a situation that has been festering. And it takes time to get those things to come to see the impact of it. Like Reggie said, the word adverse impact is saying you have to look back at it. And if we look back at the budgets, if we look at the expenses, we're seeing some inconsistencies. So
Let me get that. So G&W Diesel has consistently won the bid to be the, I guess, the mechanics and the repairers, for the Memphis Fire Department. Although they're not certified to work on Detroit-built motors for the fire department, they actually subcontract that work out. Now they may do the minor things, but the major things, transmission, engine problems, they subcontract that out to Detroit engines on Brooks Road. But when you go to the G&W website, on the city's contract website, if you guys don't have that, we'll make sure that you get a copy of that website. And here's where it gets funny. The invoices are listed. So, so in the search engine, you put in G&W Diesel Inc. Every contract that they've signed should be in there. And it was in there. It's not anymore. However, digital copies and hard copies, have been made. So as we investigated it, we see one that was $764 million. $764 million. You heard me. When you click on the invoice number of that 764 invoice, it takes you to a city website. You'll find contracts, actual contracts is what it says, highlighted in blue. You click on that, takes you to another city page. So you'll see all the correspondence from the person that asked for it, all the city officials, all the agents, all the vendors. You'll see all those things, right? It looks legit, but when you scroll down and you see the actual contract, the invoice that was signed, you're only going to see $87,600. So if there was a typo, somebody should have caught that. And this is back in 2016. So to track everything up until now, it's not consistent at all. Not one contract is consistent with the invoice. That's mismanagement. That's mismanagement. So with the fire department, the mismanagement, within the fire department itself, with the misappropriation of funds, with the violation of a policy. It's called the out of rank policy, where as a lieutenant, you must take that exam and you must appear in the top 130 in order to receive a temporary out of rank status. So if you're private, you're making the difference between your pay and the lieutenant's pay. Listen to me carefully. You have dozens of females, Caucasian females, who are currently receiving these monies. They never took a test. Now, that's a disservice to the African Americans and Caucasian brothers and sisters that actually took the test. And they're in that 130, or they're on that list, period, which should afford them the opportunity to make that money when the time comes. Right now, when you do your due diligence, and that's part of our complaint, this is not slanderous, guys, this is fact. You'll find these people in various departments that she assigned them to. With some pushback, from some of those bureau heads, because they know these people have never taken a test. We're talking about 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years. You're not even eligible to take a test, but yet and still you're receiving this money. That's misappropriation of funds. Does it make sense? Yes.
we are advocating for a couple things, and we know that we are holding space to ask the city council as well as the citizens of Memphis to come on board with us to create a new civilian-led office of emergency management services. We call 911 and we get 5 different entities that serve us. If you need a fire, if you need ambulance, if you need police, or the dispatcher. There are people involved that we want to see that they have the support and accountability process. We want to also we want to also just get these ethical concerns out, emphasizing as public service MFD employees should act fairly and honesty and avoid any appearance of impropriety, demanding transparency and investigation into all allegations of misconduct, urging the creation of an independent body to oversee ethical conduct and handle complaints, which would be that civilian-led office. We're advocating for policy changes. One of those policy changes is with the city ethics office. 30 days to have the time to process your pain and file a document feels a little inhumane to us. People are in pain, and you're expecting for them to put everything together in 30 days, and they don't take notes. We have to change the culture of our work environments for people to even know that you should be keeping notes. You should be keeping ways to safely document these things. We want to support the next generation of civil service employees to love this work. This is a very value-driven industry, and to take advantage of people who feel called to serve others, to put their life in line for others, and just put who I want in positions, right. And not people who have a heart for it, not people who study for it, just people who need a job, and they're my friend. And we need some blind hiring practices in our city so we can deal with this nepotism. This runs deep. We recognize runs way deeper than what's on the surface, but we're willing to get to learn and to inquire about it. Any other questions? I began my life at a really early age. I'm Memphis' first HIV advocate. I started my HIV advocacy career when I was like 14 years old. I shared my story in high school. I went on later to become a case manager, and I've done a lot of social service work for over 15 years. Advocacy for me has taken a lot of different forms. There's been policy changes that I've suggested, but this one was a new space for me, but it is something that I have benefited from my whole life, just like every citizen of Memphis. This is a group that served me. This is who came when my auntie house caught on fire. This was a time who came when my grandmama was sick. These are people that have touched my life, and I want to honor that the best I can. And so if we have a little strength left in us, we want to try to fight while we can.
Yes, Reginald Davis, Reginald Davis, Davis.
Antoine Maxwell, Antoine, Maxwell, Maxwell.
Kenyatta, Kenyata, Harden, Hardin.
Sharon, Sharen, Rooks, Rooks.
Yeah, so we'll share just a couple more things before we wrap this up. We want to talk about the mismanagement, from the leadership, which it starts with Gina Sweat. As you guys heard, I think Fox 13 did an interview with the president, of the local 1784, and he emphatically said that as long as he's been on the job, he has never seen the fleet of the Memphis Fire Department apparatus as bad as it is. You got equipment out there that's over 25 years old. For every wreck that they have, every transmission failure, whatever the problem may be, they don't have reserves. How do you allow public safety to go into ruin like that? How? Mismanagement, from the top. It's not a priority. So you get to ask yourself, Gina Sweat, what's your focus? It's not safe for the firefighters. It is not safe for the citizens of Memphis when these things are not being taken care of. We're talking about nepotism, which is a part of our ethics complaint as well. You've created so many positions for people that associate with you, people that come out and paint the rainbow, crosswalks in Midtown. You reward people who do things for you. whether they just deserve it or not. So we're talking about a morale problem. And if you go back and do your due diligence, which is a part of our ethics complaint, there are several created positions that never existed before. But these positions are occupied by people that she personally put in. You violated some policies. You got some people in place. Again, what I'm speaking of are things that are currently, in this ethics complaint. When the assistant police chief was let go, we were told that it was because of his residence. And truth be told, as it came out later, it was a morale problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a morale problem. People are showing up to work disconnected, don't want to be there, because they're hurt and they don't have an avenue. That's why we're here, to help them process this and help them get some work. So we're asking all the city leaders, civic leaders, we're to get involved. Investigate for yourselves. Follow the money. Follow the money. Follow the money. All right?
Anyone who wants to share their experience without retaliation can do so by emailing admin@powermediasolutions.com.
Say it one more time.
Admin, ADMIN, @powermediasolutions.com. If you have a complaint, if you need support, we are creating leaning and looking for the capacity to support trauma that our fellow citizens are dealing with. PTSD is a very common symptom of working in this industry, but it should not be because you worked in this industry. The work environment being so toxic is a PTSD deficit, and we need to figure out how best we can change that. So we would love for anyone that needs to talk. We're working with former firefighters who are on the suicide watch right now.
Absolutely.
They are not able to even find the words or the strength to fight for themselves. I want to dispel this idea that this is easy. Only reason why I learned to have the skills, and I say this in closing, to stand up for myself in Memphis in the early 2000s and say I was a kid living with HIV was because I wanted people to know me. I wanted my friends to know me. I didn't want to hide who I was and be loved by the people that say they love me. Those people were the safest place for me throughout my whole life. People with medical knowledge, people who cared for citizens despite what you had or what your sexual orientation is. And in closing, I wanted to address, I'm a member of the LGBTQ community, and even in Chief Sweat's complaint, and I have a man with 7 sisters and 8 aunts. And my mother's a woman pastor. I believe that women are here to help us in ways that we underappreciate. And I would never do that to Gina Sweat in any way. From my childhood until now, I always heard how people were proud when she became chief. They had hope that when she got into that position, she would be part of change. And what we're seeing is that she did not do the work of being a change agent, but just keeping the status quo the same. And I think in every industry in Memphis, we all can understand what that's like. And thank you all for spending time with us today. And thank you for any questions you have in the future. Please contact me at powermediasolutions.com.
Thank you, guys.
What fire station did you work at?
So many. Yeah, I was everywhere. I was mostly North Memphis. I stayed in North Memphis because they needed to see an African American hero. I was that guy.
That's what they do. Girl war.
Yeah, absolutely.